Hi guys, so my good friend Jeff uploaded a video recently where unfortunately I don't think he understands what third country status means, because he's going to mix two different issues here. One is the Northern Ireland Protocol and the other is leaving the European Union and the impact it has on UK businesses, for example. So when the UK was a member of the European Union, it was a rule maker. It was part of the club, you can say, and it was part of the decision-making process. When the UK left the European Union, it lost that privilege. It became a rule taker. Now, for Brexiteers, they believed, well, when you're outside, you're not a rule taker anymore. And technically you're not, but if you want to trade with that bloc, and that bloc is bigger than you, and 47% of your exports go to the European Union, then you have to follow their rules. Now, it would have been better to be inside because then you're part of the rule-making process. But if you're outside, then you're part of the rule-taking process. Something that Brexiteers still don't seem to understand. But let's hear what Jeff had to say about all of this.
In a recent video, I said that the end game for Brussels was for the UK to be somehow forced to sign up to rule from Brussels, and that the pressure exerted via the Northern Ireland Protocol would be the route they take.
What he's talking about here is the idea that, and I've talked about this before, in regards to peace in Northern Ireland, there were three possibilities. There was a border in the Irish Sea, a border on the island of Ireland, or the UK as a whole, Northern Ireland and Great Britain, be part of the single market and the customs union. Now, Brexiteers didn't want the latter, so the two other options were a border on the island of Ireland, which would have been in breach of the Good Friday Agreement, or a border in the Irish Sea. Now, at the moment, Brexiteers are not happy with the border in the Irish Sea. So we've asked them to come up with an alternative, and they don't have an alternative. The alternative they have presented is just dump the Northern Ireland Protocol. But that's not an alternative. We need to have something. Now, the European Union have said all along, this is not something new, they have said all along, look, if the UK as a whole were within the single market and the customs union, then there's no need for a border on the island of Ireland or in the Irish Sea.
Well, Brussels has exerted the pressure and caused a huge rise in tensions, and now the Eurocrat...
See what he's doing here? He's trying to present this as new information. See, the EU is putting pressure on the UK government now to rejoin the single market and the customs union. The EU have never put pressure on now. This has been their position all along. Brexiteers ignored this. Brexiteers said, we don't have to go down this road.
Offer to Boris is surrender to EU rules and the problems that they've caused will go away.
Sorry to interrupt again, but if you're exporting to the EU, if most of your exports go to the EU, then you have to follow those rules. You're following those rules now. Now, at this moment, you're following EU rules. You're not a rule maker, you're a rule taker. Jeff is trying to present it as the EU want us to become a rule taker. But you are a rule taker by the fact that you are a third country.
The EU is not looking to use the protocol to respect the Good Friday Agreement in both its north-south and east-west requirements, so easing tensions. Brussels is using the protocol to exert as much pressure on Northern Ireland as it possibly can to increase tensions and to try and force the UK to capitulate.
Why would they do that? What benefit is there to the EU in forcing the UK to capitulate, to become part of the single market and the customs union? If that option was always there and the UK decided not to follow it, then that's the UK's fault. If the EU had said on many occasions in the run-up to the end of the transition period, it would be better to be in the single market and the customs union because you're going to suffer the consequences of being a third country, and the response from people like Jeff was, stop with your scaremongering, then you can't call it scaremongering now when you rejected the position at the beginning. They said this is the position. Now you're saying they're trying to enforce this position upon us.
This comes as news emerged recently that the EU and UK were inching towards a solution to the problems thrown up by the EU's interpretation of the protocol.
No, not... Once again, doesn't seem to understand Brexit. They're inching towards a solution to the issues thrown up by Brexit, not by the protocol. As I've said this before, Brexit is the fire, the protocol is the extinguisher. Brexiteers are complaining about the fire extinguisher while the building is burning.
But my reading of this is that the EU thinks this means the UK government is willing to do a massive U-turn on Brexit and now decide to become a rule-taker colony of the EU.
Once again, he doesn't understand rule-taking. You used to be a rule maker, now you're a rule taker. If you want to export into the EU, you have to follow the rules. You are following the rules now. We've heard about so many companies who have to fill out pages and pages and pages of paperwork. Is that not following the rules? They can decide not to follow the rules, but then they can't export. What is so difficult to understand about this? Brexiteers were sold, including Jeff, people like Jeff, sold the idea that we'll be able to export, but we won't have to follow any rules. Now, Remainers said that's insanity, and the response from Brexiteers was, stop scaremongering, stop engaging in project fear. Businesses, customers and businesses in Europe, in the European Union, will be so adamant about trading with us that they'll allow us to export into the EU from the UK without following rules. And our response, of course, to that was that's insanity. And the response from Brexiteers once again was stop engaging in project fear and your scaremongering.
And if we do that, then the EU can stick its oar straight back into the UK and we'd be under ECJ jurisdiction again. And it could jeopardise our own trade deals we do around the world. And all the while, the EU Parliament sits on the temporarily agreed trade cooperation agreement and refuses to ratify it.
So who's in control here? The UK ratified the deal. The EU haven't ratified it yet. They're still scrutinising it. And you want them to ratify it, but you don't have any power over them, Jeff. I don't have any power over them. They are deciding according to how they see fit. I think it's a good idea to scrutinise something. I think it's a good idea to read it in detail and decide when you have a full understanding of the deal. You know, in the same way that the UK Parliament was given enough time to... Oh no, they actually were not given enough time to scrutinise the deal.
The deal the UK government signed up to at the end of last year has not yet been properly ratified by Brussels. They've had ample time to translate the deal into all the relevant languages and could get on with it now.
Once again, you're asking them to do something. Can you imagine if the EU, let's just flip the script for a moment. Imagine if EU officials or commentators were saying, look, why isn't the UK ratifying this deal? We've translated, we've done everything. Why aren't they doing it? Do you think Boris or his supporters like Jeff would be coming back and saying, yes, you're right, we should get on with the deal? No, you'd be saying, get lost. We are going to ratify it in our, when we want to. We're going to scrutinise it as much as we want. Don't tell us what to do. Basically, Jeff is telling the EU what to do.
But Brussels is intent on playing hardball and wants to see the UK beaten down and controlled. We must not allow them to win.
Once again, this thing about winning and losing, it's about trade. As I said at the beginning, the UK was a rule maker. They decided, we don't want to be a rule maker anymore. We prefer to be a rule taker. But politicians and commentators were not honest about that. They did not tell the public, look, when we leave the European Union, we will be a rule taker. They said, no, we will be not following the rules, but we don't have to follow the rules because of some exceptionalism or something. Now businesses are following the rules. The UK government have no impact on the rules that are written in Brussels. They used to, but now they don't. And you're complaining about that. You're complaining about something that you campaigned for, that you voted for. I'll still to hear any positive news about Brexit from people like Jeff. All it is about complaining. I thought Brexit was a sunlit upland. I thought Brexit was going to make everything better. But all I hear from Brexiteers is everything is bad. But if everything is so bad, maybe it would be better not to have voted for this in the first place. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?